people. I didn't get with Kathy because that's not who he added onto my email, but I checked with the principal and the message also went to the facilities director. It's saying it's good to go for the recycling event. So just that we need to continue to talk with Kathy. But he said he doesn't see any problem why that shouldn't be that shouldn't be an issue. And then the principal, I said we're working with Kathy, and she said yeah. So it seems to be that should be fine.
Great. That's the message I got from Kathy as well. So that's
Okay.
great.
Good.
Welcome, Elaine.
Hi.
I'm not sure if we're going to have some additional people, but why don't we do some quick introductions, and then this is a pretty open format. You can talk about whatever you like. Just give people a chance to talk, and feel free to introduce yourself and say a couple of words about what your interests are. And Sarah, do you want to start?
Hi, Sarah Allen. I have a 13 and 10-year-old in the Okemos School District. I've been passionate about environmental issues since I was a young child in the middle of the state of Kansas, and just constantly working on ways to make people want to be environmentally friendly. So I've been working with the school district and working on trying to get that to be more of a priority, that the school district focuses on environmental things and being more environmentally conscious. So
Awesome. We're just doing some quick introductions. Sarah just went first. Who would like to go next?
I can go if you want.
Go for it, Elaine.
You're on mute, Leroy.
Go for it.
Hi, I'm Elaine Putman. I grew up in Okemos schools, but I've been back in Okemos for the last 10 years after being gone for 25 or more years, working in Macomb County on environmental issues. In the meantime, we were concerned with Canadian trash coming in back in the 90s, and I think it's probably still an issue. We were concerned with things like keeping yard waste out of the landfills and that sort of thing. And so a lot of big issues that we worked on. Here in Meridian, I've been working with Leroy mostly on the recycling events, and I have taken an interest in textile recycling most recently. And that's something we're still trying to make happen a little bit more here. So.
Great. Ned, you want to go? You're unmuted.
Sure. So I'm a chemistry professor, and I've been part of the Environmental Commission for a long time, but basically I'm completely unqualified to be part of any of these conversations, except that I'm interested. Actually, on the subject of textile recycling, I'm curious about where are we in the conversation, not necessarily just in Meridian Township, but in the world, about microfibers and synthetic materials that come off of cloth, because of course the same way that we don't worry about tires being ground up and all the other sort of particulate leftovers of the things we manufacture, clothes of course are more and more made from synthetic materials. And as a chemist, I sometimes wonder, at what point is something ground up small enough that sort of biology can digest it the rest of the way? And it turns out it's got to be pretty small. So anyway, as when Elaine mentioned that, I've been thinking about that question, since the last time I cleaned the lint out of the dryer trap. Anyway.
Okay. Welcome.
Good points.
We're halfway through our intros. Let's come back to that if you like. Chelsea, you want to go?
Yeah. So my name is Chelsea. I'm a undergraduate student at Swarthmore College, which is near Philly. and I'm spending the summer in Okemos, interning with Emma, doing some fun conservationist work, getting some experience. I guess I should also mention I'm New Jersey native, so it's been fun getting to see the Midwest because this is my first time being here.
Where in New Jersey?
Well, how well do you know your New Jersey?
My wife is from just outside of Glassboro, a town called Pittman, down south.
Gotcha. I'm from like more like northern Jersey. I'm near Morristown, or I'm
Okay.
in Morris County. Yeah, closer to New York City.
We met in graduate school at Princeton. So
Okay, Emma, do you want to go?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, Chelsea's awesome. Bill sent her my way, and fortunately, she hasn't been able to work much. We've both been quarantined at home this week. So, yeah, but I'm Emma Campbell. I am the Land Stewardship Coordinator for Meridian Township Parks and Recreation, which has just been so much fun so far. And so, you know, my main goal is just getting the community more involved in conservation and stewardship, because it really comes down to a community level. So that's what I'm working on.
Bill, do you want to go? Introduce yourself.
Good morning. I'm having a discombobulated morning. I'm recombobulating myself as we speak. I'll be fully online in a second.
Okay.
I think everybody on this call knows who I am. Environmental Commission, Planning Commission, MSU. I ride bikes a lot. I just rode past Ned's house, but I didn't stop because I wanted to get back here for this.
Great. I'm Leroy Harvey, and I think I know most of you. So welcome. This is open conversation again, whatever you want to talk about. I do have we talked a little bit about plastic fibers in the environment, clothing. I do have an update from Simple Recycling. Just hot off the press this morning after 8 o'clock, they emailed me saying that potentially the second quarter in 2021 might be a good time to start up in Meridian, because right now they're only serving 5 of 30 communities. And they're hoping to be back up and running in other communities. That's only a small piece of the fiber recycling or the plastic microfiber issue, of course, but it's a significant one. And the other thing related to the microfibers is that Michelle Balasker is involved with a multi-organizational study right now on microfibers, and she's offered to help us with our tree team, our tree distribution, and she'll be a good resource as we explore that further. Maybe she'll be a speaker at our green themes or something.
Great.
That's my quick update. I am excited about this environmental review of some of our ordinances and policies. And we've got a tree team meeting, an environmental commission meeting tonight. So lots of stuff on our agenda. But I'm going to be quiet and let other people talk. Go for it. Who wants to talk first?
I just want to say that I think that microplastics and, you know, to do with textiles, I think that's so interesting. And once again, another faucet of, you know, environmental sustainability that we can think of that, you know, I didn't know. I mean, I've seen a lot of companies now because I've been trying to buy from, I'm sure some of you have heard of it, Zero Waste. It's called the Zero Waste Store. And so they promote a lot of products that are zero waste, totally recyclable. And there's, you know, clothing that you can buy that apparently doesn't release any of those little microplastics. But what Michelle does is cool because there's like a bag that goes on your laundry chute that will catch the different microplastics, which is very interesting. I don't have one, but I would like to get one. Oh, also Leroy, does the township,
Dryer.
sorry, what'd you say, Lee?
I said, what if you don't use a dryer?
So I
So
don't
just
use one right
yourself.
now, but in the winter time, I use it sometimes. So
Yeah.
But so does the township recycle batteries, Leroy?
I'm trying to get the answer from our recycling center. They put that on hold during the COVID crisis just because their sources were not accepting. But typically we do accept recycling. We also have a list of other places that take batteries. I could send you that fact sheet.
That'd be great.
Most
Because
people
they
are
just
not,
throw them out, apparently.
most battery, well, there's some conflicting advice about what to do with alkaline batteries. But I can send you the fact sheet, which is a little out of date, but it will kind of go into this a little bit further.
Yep, that'd be great. Better than what I have right now. So
I have been taking batteries, household batteries, to that Batteries Plus Bulbs store on the north side of Frandor. They'll take like a quart-size Ziploc from me, which I don't know how I get all these batteries. I find them in the street sometimes, you know, I pick them up. But they normally charge, but if you buy something from them, then they won't charge you to take your batteries.
okay.
Or if it's a small amount, they won't charge you.
Yeah, I mean, personally at home, we have switched over to rechargeable, but at the township, the grounds crew and stuff, they just throw them out. And when I asked them if they recycled them, they said they did not. So I didn't know if that was because it wasn't happening in the township or what. So, I mean, I would happily collect them myself and have a bin by my desk and take them where they need to go. So.
As far as I know with batteries, we're told to throw them out in household amounts. And if you collect, you know, an amount of them, then they become hazardous waste. And
Right,
then you got another issue. So,
right.
yeah. I don't know.
That's good to know.
I would love people's input on the next evolution of this battery fact sheet. Right now we're on version number 17, and advice and the options changes over time, but it's helpful to sort of tap our collective brains. For example, Elaine sharing the Batteries Plus Bulbs, Emma's interest. But why don't I share that with the entire group? And maybe Emma, if you share it with Chelsea, if you've got any other thoughts. But that's another issue, kind of like microfibers or food waste. It's pretty complex, and what you recommend depends on what people interests are or capacities are.
Yeah.
You can truck stuff 5 miles to the recycling station that takes batteries, but are you creating more CO2 than your,
Right.
etc. So
Speaking of food waste, could I just say one thing? When I'm going that way, I go to Delhi Township's Public Works facility on McHugh Road and Grovenberg Road, which is just west of Holt. They collect kitchen grease, cooking fat type of thing. And they've now labeled their collection bin. It used to be you just had to know it was there, but now it's actually labeled. They have like a deck box sitting out by their fence. So you know where to put it. If
And what's the place called that takes it?
Excuse me?
What is the place called that takes kitchen grease?
Oh, it's the Delhi Township. No, they don't call it a DPW. It's a
wastewater treatment plant.
whatever they call it on that corner of McHugh Road.
There's sheep and llamas across from it. Is that the one?
The sheep and the herding llama are
I love that.
down Grovenberg Road, just south of their facility. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Related to food waste, I did hear back from Hammond Farms, and Lee Hammond gave me their rate schedule. We were talking about this at our last meeting, maybe getting food waste at the farmer's market. And so they gave us some prices. They do it at Allen Market. So I think there's some options there. I just have, it's not cheap. I mean, it's not free, but it's not too expensive.
Do they say how they do that? Do they bring a truck, or what do they do?
They have a 64-gallon bin. I believe it's got a green top or something like that. I haven't actually seen them. Maybe someone else has seen them at Allen. They provide the liners or not, and they do it weekly or bi-weekly.
Okay,
And
weekly.
I believe it's $33 per pickup.
That's not too bad.
That includes the liner. And so there's a number of different options, but yeah.
How would that work
That's
with
not a-
township? Is that the kind of thing that the township would be willing to pick up the tab for? Or, I mean, where do you get the budget for that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that would have to come out of, I don't know how farmers market is funded. I don't know if it's a general fund or a fund that comes from somewhere else. I can see. And I'll send an email out to Tom Carey, who's the farm market manager, and we'll get, Leroy, did we send an email to him talking about this, or?
I have had conversations with him over the last year, but not recently.
Okay.
I did call him, but when I was going to call him, I didn't have these numbers in front of me, so
Yeah.
I'll put it on
well,
I'll write it up and send it out to everybody. I
Okay.
think if like you, if others are in touch with Tom or just mention it at the market, sometimes a critical mass of people asking about it can sway the people who pull the purse strings.
Yeah, I think that's something that Tom would definitely be very interested in, and would be very open to talking about, and he would give us a very real answer on it too, a realistic answer. But yeah, we'll find out where the budget for farmers market comes from, and because to me that doesn't seem like that much, but it does add up. So I'll send an email to Tom and we can get that conversation started.
Along those lines, how does, I have no idea exactly how the money flows for the township's own plain old trash handling. Do we send stuff through Granger, or how's plain old waste handled? And if it can be recycled and, that saves money in that direction, there's a possible compensation.
Granger is not doing yard waste right now. They're doing yard waste, but not food waste. We have a pretty good contract with Granger to handle most of our trash and our recycling at most of our buildings. There's various levels of participation at the fire station, service center, et cetera. But yeah, they've been pretty supportive of our efforts. Although I'm not exactly sure where they are with food waste.
Well, I just meant, the less that goes into trash, if there was actually a proportionality as opposed to just a fixed cost, some of that money could be saved and then, sent toward sending it to another place that charges.
That's a good
Along
point.
those lines, it turns out that my wife decided to, over the last year, simply save every piece of single-use plastic from food packaging and so forth that we had in the house. And now, of course, with cans and bottles and things like that also adding up, our garage is beginning to clog up. Anyway, so I just rode my bike down to MSU. MSU used to have a bin for single-use plastic, different from, milk jugs or whatever. But it's not there anymore, or at least it wasn't there a few days ago. And I was just wondering if anybody knew of an alternative way of getting rid of those things, or anybody else who's handling that kind of recycling.
You can mix it with your batteries, grind it up in a food processor, throw in a little
Microfiber.
latex paint.
In the dryer lint collector.
It makes a
Add
nice
some
pothole
kale.
filler.
Add some kale and it'll be a beautiful morning drink.
Hey, I mean, batteries, they got a bunch of zinc in them. I mean, you just take them for a cold.
Yeah. Your new
They all
zinc
need some
vitamin.
fiber.
Maybe Chelsea's a new person on the block. Maybe she's got some ideas. We rely on people from other states to inform Michiganders occasionally.
For those kind of single-use items, yeah, I have the same difficulty a lot of the time. I'm just feeling like I don't have a good place to bring them. One company that my college is partnered with is called TerraCycle, and they take a lot of those items. They do a lot of recycling of single-use, like snack wrappers, chip bags, and they can separate like the plastic from the aluminum or like metal lining and recycle those items. And they do a lot of recycling of like dental items, toothbrushes, toothpaste tubes, things like that. But I think they're a company that's centered in Trenton. So we partner with them because they're geographically very close. I don't know if they're more nationwide, but maybe there's some sort of Michigan similar company doing that kind of work.
Do you know what their method of recycling is? I mean, are they actually somehow depolymerizing it, or are they cutting it up and making it into pieces of park benches or things like that? Or
Yeah, I don't actually know the specifics of what they do for all the different products, but I'm sure I could look it up. I could look at their website and see if it says.
Are they the same place that on the bottom of like the broth containers and stuff, TerraCycle? I mean, because I know they say to send in like toothpaste tubes and like you're saying, milk like jugs that have the wax or the plastic lining. Yeah, I've seen to send it into that. Has anybody done that before? Because I'd save mine and now I have a bunch and I'm like, is it really more sustainable to send it, I guess, it's probably based out of near you, but I don't know. Does anybody have experience with that?
I've avoided that, but we are part of the Michigan Recycling Coalition and also a regional group of the Regional Recycling Coordinating Committee. A lot of those folks are connected with various, Delhi Township, MSU, and some of them might have some experience working with TerraCycle. So we could potentially check with MRC, Michigan Recycling Coalition, and R2C2, find out more, perhaps.
You say R2D2?
R2C2, Regional Recycling Coordinating Committee.
MRC2, okay.
TerraCycle's website says it says in 20 countries we tackle the issue from many angles, but yes, they're centered in Trenton. But I mean, if they're connected to multiple countries, they must have some mechanism for extending their reach. I don't know what it is, but
it's all a matter of mailing it to them, right? That's
yeah. So
that's I've ever heard.
yeah,
that's my issue. Is then I have all this stuff built up, and then I'm like, okay, now I have to get a big box, or I don't know. I guess it's like it's one of those things that we've talked about. Where is it better to send it, or I'm not sure. I'm really not sure what to do.
Well, and I mean, I totally think it's great, but I also think, how many, I'm kind of thinking in terms of household uses, and like I have one, is it you can do a whole box of the 4 toothpaste containers you go through in a year, or, I mean, can you, because I know, I think if it's the same TerraCycle I know is the Capri Sun containers and the
Yeah.
So is it the kind of thing where you can dump all of that in its own in a box so that each household could mail one box? I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of really trying to make that a productive way of recycling things. Is it the kind of thing that it could be a community effort, or is it we hunker down and encourage each household to do it? I mean, because that's part of the problem is saving all. not everyone is willing to save up all this stuff to then find a place. I mean, I know I am, but and you guys are, but that's not realistic for the mass. And so trying to figure out how to do that as a community-wide thing gets complicated, I think, of trying to figure out how to make that manageable.
It does take up a lot of the garage.
Yeah.
Like Ned was saying. But so the thing that I've started to do, and why I like the zero waste store, is I've just started to get, like, the toothpaste I get comes in a glass jar, which I know I can recycle. Although if people have more information on whether glass is good to recycle or you know, what it revolves around that, let me know. But we started getting the tablets that you chew up, or like they come in a tin, things that I know I can recycle through my recycling center. I've been just trying to shift to those products. But then again, I do still have all these things built up that I would like to send in. I think things like Capri Sun packets and small things like that would definitely be worth sending a box full of those in. But like you said, are people going to have a place to put those things?
Well, because I know that Cornell Elementary was doing it years ago when they were doing that, but then that's part of what I was trying to work on with the school when this all started, of going, okay, well, how can we systematically create a system so that we can collect Capri Sun and then mail it off? We can do this and mail it off. I mean, it's time and energy that you got to be able to find people that are willing to do that kind of work. Because you can't, I mean, especially when school, and I'm not saying just schools, but like, for example, when school districts are having to cut people, they're not going to add on some person to manage organizing recycling. So how do we do that as a community to encourage that?
To me,
Yeah, it would be.
oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I think to me, it's about transforming, not trying to transform other people, but to transform your own lifestyle and then share that with other people and just sort of set an example.
Yeah.
We can waste a lot of energy trying to transform other people, but I think our example is maybe the best. And so just sharing some of those success stories can be transformative in itself.
Absolutely.
The other idea that comes to mind is the mind map that we did with kind of earlier on, just trying to get a sense of who's doing environmental projects in our community and who are some of the organizations, and how do we organize our thinking about what's going on environmentally in our community. And maybe there's a similar type of a thing for managing waste or making environmental choices, and sort of exposing the decision matrix, or what are the options out there. And we're never going to come up with one size fits all, but maybe there's some, like the zero waste store is something I hadn't heard of, and maybe that's somewhere on the mind map.
Is that online?
Yeah, I just found it online a while ago. I honestly think I found out about it through Facebook because I started following a bunch of zero waste groups. And, it's still not perfect. I mean, I think a lot of those sites you go to, there's still things that can cause waste. But I like that they at least get all the products together in one place that, like shampoo and conditioner that are just bars of soap, or like deodorant that's in a cardboard tube, stuff like that. So things that are, more sustainable. As far as these products that we use all the time and we have to buy every, month to 4 months to 6 months, those types of things, they offer a lot of really great choices. I can share it in the chat too.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
Did you find it? It's just called Zero Waste Store, so it's really easy to find.
yeah. Cool.
I want to go a little bit further talking about waste and waste generation, because I think the COVID era is actually confronting us with some new issues. One of them is, just this, I was reminded of this yesterday on a bike ride. There were just some you know, used rubber gloves lying in the grass.
Mm.
And I was thinking there are a couple issues. Recently at in the Environmental Commission, we had a what's called a Green Themes presentation by Susan Maston on the subject of stuff that goes down the drain and how it gives trouble to the actual water treatment plant. You know, so flushable, so-called flushable wipes and things like that, but also fat and so forth. But things like rubber gloves are horrible things once they end up in the wrong place, because if they're shredded by equipment like that, there still shreds the rubber that is going to be floating around wherever it goes for a very long time. Just recently, I forget what the number was, but you know, thousands and thousands of pounds of chicken bits were, whatever they were, chicken fingers or something like that, that were recalled because of small bits of rubber in them.
Oh,
And of course, now everybody's wearing PPE like that, and similarly face masks and so forth. And that's obviously around hospitals, that's a huge flow, but just in the populace now, that's also a significant added category of things that most people are treating as disposables, I think. And so, well, except I have my Grateful Dead mask, I'll show you. But anyway, I was just curious if there's been any talk about that, or about maybe even, I don't know, having explicit places for those kinds of things to go that both potentially have disease aspects and also are, you know, disposable, new categories of disposable junk.
I haven't heard a lot about it, but I have thought about it myself as well. And another place I always think of is hospitals when I'm in there. And
Oh,
like
yeah.
those are hard place. Yeah, it's so hard though, because the work that's being, like you're saying, they're dealing with infectious or things that have, you know, germs on them, and it's like, but it causes so much waste. So I've definitely thought about that, but I haven't really heard any talk around that.
Of course, about a couple, 3 decades ago, New Jersey was famous for having, you know, people used to just take barges full of stuff out into the ocean and dump it. And given the wrong conditions of weather and so forth, things like blood bags and so forth would wash up on beaches. And it was really getting kind of gross.
Yeah.
You know, those are
Sounds like a
plastic
nightmare.
or silicone materials that don't break down fast at all, if they break down at all.
After watching the Bill Gates special, where he was trying to come up with a ultimate toilet that solved the world's waste problems, and just seeing pictures of where the trash goes in some countries, just dumping it in the ocean and in the gullies, and it washes out to sea.
Right.
I'm thinking that some of our problems here are sort of rich people problems, and maybe we should be focusing our efforts on building more compost toilets for third world nations or whatever. Oh, bitch, Bill has a more global perspective on this, perhaps, since he travels all around the world. You got any thoughts, Bill?
I used to travel all around the world, but I'm pretty much done with air travel.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are so many people in the world trying to help other people build better toilets, and it's mainly about hygiene, and it should also be about nutrients, but it rarely is. So that's the perspective I have.
I thought it was kind of ironic that the Gates Foundation or whatever came up with a $100,000 toilet that would solve all our problems.
Yes, but what operating system does it run?
I went to
Actually, sorry, go ahead.
It keeps rebooting all the time.
referring back to Bill's arrival on the scene, I actually am about to go for a bike ride that I'm supposed to meet people 10 minutes away from here at 9 o'clock. So I'm going to have to sign off, but it's great to see everybody's face.
Yeah, nice talking to you. It's always good to get your perspective, your chemistry perspective that I never understand.
It is a treat.
Anyway, until next week, or until tonight, if you want to come to the Environmental Commission meeting.
I would if I wasn't, maybe if I get my test results back.
There you go. Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ned. Have a nice ride. Anyway, we're covering a lot of ground here. What else do people want to talk about for another 10 or 15 minutes?
Are there groups of people at an international or a international level that you know of that are trying to work on waste, like medical waste and stuff? Have you ever heard of groups trying to figure that out? I mean, I think in terms of decades ago, before plastic, how were IVs or how were things done the old way before plastic was used everywhere? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure how you deal with medical waste, because the moment you want to do something with it, you're going to get a rule of, you know, the whole issue with biohazard. So I don't know.
Well, I can tell you some of it. They use a lot of glass, and they used rubber tubing rather than plastic. And everything was washable and reusable then. Whether there were still contaminants on it, I couldn't say. And a lot of autoclaving was done where autoclaving was available, you know, high temperature sterilization. But yeah, they've moved away from that. A lot of hospitals don't even have autoclaves anymore. Even the surgical instruments are not reused in some places. Although they usually still are, I believe. I think locally they still reuse instruments, but just about nothing else. And yeah, the amount of waste is astounding. Not only do they throw mountains of stuff away, but because there's a possibility of sharps being in anything where they shouldn't be, they don't compact the waste either. You'll see housekeeping personnel carrying out huge bags that are mostly air with a little bit of trash in the bottom because they're afraid of what might be in there, and rightly so. Yeah, hospitals are a huge source of waste, and having worked in hospital food service isn't any better, I'll tell you. It's starting to be, but traditionally they haven't been.
Have you guys, that's really interesting, Elaine, too. And that's a really good point to bring up, Sarah, of like, what did people do before, you know, plastic? I think that's really, I think too, because we're on such a huge scale with our population, it's just so hard to even wrap your mind around it. But you know, like 5 years ago, and I don't know if anybody else has heard of this, they found a moth that was actually digesting plastic. Like it was actually able to digest plastic and turn it into some kind of silk or something. And I know they were doing a lot of research on it, you know, because it was of high interest. And I don't know if anybody's heard of that, but that would be really nice if something would just be able to get rid of it, I guess. But even when I
hear bits and pieces of that sometimes.
Yeah.
I heard more about it in the early discussions of permeable pavements. That were inoculating the pavement with the bacteria that would digest the motor oil.
So crazy.
Yeah.
Once again, nature would save us. Nature is just so resilient. I think that's a really interesting solution to look for, because it's like, it's crazy what it can do. But Yeah.
That sort of relates to our what inspired this tree planting project that we'll be talking about tonight on our tree team at 6 o'clock. Planting trees is something that people can do. It's not as overwhelming as solving the plastic crisis, but it's something positive that does have big effects on the environment. And so giving people choices and something positive they can do is, it's a start. I mean, it's not the ultimate solution, but I think having a positive attitude, having a sense that things are possible, rather than overwhelming and it's all too big for us to deal with, that just sort of undermines the whole environmental movement, I think.
Yeah, I think it really helps when people can be successful. You know, it's like they want to feel that satisfaction. Leroy, do you have, like when you give out the trees, are you going to have some information on what trees do for, you know, everyone, like the fact that we can't live without trees, that sort of thing?
I would love to have your input on the handouts that we give out. We started to talk about it, and Michelle Belasker, who's done the tree distributions for Ingham Conservation District, has prepared a proposal. So I'm hoping that we will be able to work directly with her, and they've got some good publications that describe the benefits of trees, but also where to plant them and how to maintain them. And so
That's great.
I will share her proposal, but that's up for discussion, and how we set up the table at the market and what information do we give out. I'd love to have your perspective on that, because I think a big piece of it is this conservation core that you and maybe Chelsea are working on. It's like, here's how you can get involved. But,
yeah,
we're looking at that to solve all the problems.
Yeah. Well, hopefully, if it will solve even 20%, that would be wonderful. No, I just think like whenever when I used to teach, I always would try to really drive home for the kids that, you know, plants can live just fine without us, but we can't actually live without plants, you know? And I always think that's a really interesting perspective for people to see. And yeah, so, but Michelle, they have amazing resources and stuff to put out there. So yeah, that would be cool.
I like to be the problem I wish to solve, to change.
I thought it would be the answer.
Any other parting comments or revelations that people would like to share? I know everyone's busy, and
I got one thing. During some of the period where everyone was talking, I was scrolling through TerraCycle's site because it said see below available programs. And I was scrolling like forever because they apparently have specific collection boxes for anything you can imagine that you might want to collect. Some of them are free, some of them there's a cost. Like those squeezable baby food things that are, you know, in the plastic bag type things with a screw cap. You can collect those. You can collect just anything you can imagine. Specific
awesome.
Branded items of coffee bags, of Arm & Hammer, OxyClean pouches, it says. I mean, specific items here.
I wonder if we could get some advertising from that or whatever to put up at the market, so that we could advertise that that's a place that people could send that to, so they could do it on their own or whatever.
But it doesn't say you can send it to them. It says you can get if this exists in your area, but it's very hard. I haven't been able to find a way to search to see if there's anything here.
Well, maybe do you just need a group of persevering people to do that.
Or contact us and partner with us, it says. Yeah, whatever.
I mean, I think that Okemos would be a great candidate for that. I think people are pretty aware. I mean, they have more awareness than a lot of communities. They have the ability to be aware, I think, than a lot of communities.
And it
Absolutely.
looks like they're directing themselves toward the manufacturers and the distributors. That's quite interesting. 'Cause to me, that's where these programs have to originate. If you're going to make the stuff and sell it to us, by God, you better take the waste products back, you know?
You'd think, right?
Yeah, you'd think.
That's a novel concept.
Yeah, I think Ford Motor Company was kind of a pioneer in that concept. Many, many years ago, they started coating the plastic parts on automobiles for eventual recycling. I don't know if they still do that, but I remember they did start doing that some years ago.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if that was Ned or Bill last time that brought up, can we just return those barrels that hold the deodorizer, things like that. I wonder if this is just like things we just don't know about. And Sarah, I really like your idea of at least bringing, because it would be hard to coordinate that, I think, but bringing this type of stuff to people's awareness, I think is great. But I'm glad, maybe we can all do a little homework on TerraCycle too and figure out how it works exactly. Thanks, Elaine, for checking that out. That's really helpful.
Kind of interesting, but difficult to figure out. Speaking of barrels, I've got an old water softener tank in my basement that I was going to haul out of there. I discovered it's not metal, it's plastic, and it's also filled with salt pellets that I've got to do something with first. So if anyone hand cranks their own ice cream, I got salt for you.
We did get rid of about 20 barrels. We've got 4 left.
That's awesome.
And it should be picked up this week. And I did ask, put that question out about whether the manufacturer would take them back. So I haven't heard back yet, but
Okay.
I love the way this conversation is going in terms of how do we. Well, let me just say there's interest on the Environmental Commission, and Courtney Wazinski's son, who's applied to be on the commission, is doing a plastic research project and looking at plastic bags, but this might relate to that conversation. So she's one of our trustees, and there's all kinds of possibilities of what we might pursue.
Yeah, and I think that the idea of trying to push it back on the manufacturers, I mean, they know what's in it. So in all the different things that they produce, if it's a plastic bag or whatever. And so I think it would be nice to be able to figure out ways of pushing a lot of those things back on the manufacturers of, can you figure out how to recycle this? Or is there just so much there.
Yeah, maybe it's just at the point where enough people haven't asked or pushed or, it's kind of like the stores that they take the plastic bags, it's something similar to that where, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know one of them that I've been trying to figure out how to work on is in the schools, there's all those Elmer or whatever brand glue stick plastic things, and I'm trying to, you can put it up on Twitter. Well, I'm not on Twitter, but you can put it up online and say, hey, Elmer's or whatever, recycle this. Or as in there's no recycle mark on it. So maybe it's recyclable, but they don't have a mark on it. So I've been trying to figure out how do I contact them to say, hey, just at least put the recycle triangle on there so we know whether we can put it in the recycling. It's very likely recyclable, but they don't mark it as such. So that's one of the ones I'm working on, is trying to figure out how to push them to do that kind of thing, because for schools, that's a huge amount. I mean, those are everywhere in all the schools.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and that's interesting. That makes me think of like Crayola will take back any marker. It doesn't even
Yeah.
have to be. Yeah. But
I've
why
done that.
don't do they put that on their box? Is it on there? Maybe it is on there.
I think so.
Okay. Because I don't know. I just like didn't look close enough at the box, but I wish that stuff was just more out there though. Like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, you can collect all of these markers, because we stopped buying markers for camp, but I didn't know you could recycle all of them. So
Well, yeah, and that's the perfect example of a manufacturer doing a full circle of, you can actually
Yeah.
return them to us and we will reuse them. And then you get the marker that's got the black top that you know is recycled.
oh, that's so cool. Well, and it's nice that they take any brand, you know, it doesn't have to just be Crayola. And so I think it would be interesting maybe, and I mean, because there's already so many good resources out there that have been put together, Leroy, you know, you and your team, the Recyclopedia and all that, but, you know, maybe there's one that we can do for manufacturers or some more common items that, you know, we just don't have enough information on exactly how to recycle it.
I love that idea.
Sarah, excuse me. I just Googled Elmer Glue Stick Recycling Program, and apparently they had one in the past. There's an article in 2010, so that's 10 years ago. They had a classroom glue stick and glue bottle recycling program, and they partnered with TerraCycle. So
Oh,
there could be something going on there. I don't know.
On a slightly related note, there is a bipartisan package of 6 bills that the Michigan Recycling Coalition has been working on. I just put it in the Green Gazette newsletter if you want to learn more about it, but the
Yeah.
goal is to boost the recycling rate in Michigan. And so this, if you have any legislators that you want to contact about this, share it with you. I guess it's a pretty tight timeline, but I'll just mention that. Also, if you have any other things that you'd like to put in the Green Gazette or information you'd like to share, I'd love to get your contributions for that. I do it every month, and
I really enjoy reading it. It's great.
Mhm.
Good job, Leroy.
Yeah.
you and 7 other people really enjoy it. No, just kidding. But feel free to share it with others. Any other parting comments that people have?
Once again, a great conversation. I love these conversations.
Me too.
Yeah,
Okay.
me too. Thanks for tuning in, Chelsea. Look forward to hearing more about your work with Emma. And Emma, we also voted that we all want to be your interns.
Ah, that would be lovely. You can all come be my interns.
Cool. Good to see you, everybody.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
good to
much.
see everyone. Have a good day.
Bye.
See you next week.
Tune into the tree team or the environmental commission meeting if you feel like it.
Is it online or on Zoom?
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
good. I didn't know that.
yeah, I put it in the latest Green Gazette, which
Okay.
haven't sent that out to staff yet, but if you're interested.
I think I got it because I signed up for the newsletter. So
Okay.
yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll
Maybe-
definitely tune in if I can.
I'm not sure I put the tree team in there. Was that the one you were interested in, or the environmental?
I think both if I can swing it.
Okay.
But I think I think I'm included on the tree team emails. So
Okay, awesome.
yeah. Cool.
Well, don't feel like you have to. If you want to go out and enjoy nature with your family, whatever.
Yes.
Anyway.
I definitely do that, but it would be nice to at least tune into one of them. So
If I'll tune out and stop the recording if you